Hello, my name is Aaronetta. Welcome back to my channel where I like to talk healthy, happy, holistic living, mind, body, and soul. And today we are tackling that mind because I am going into my most addictive reads, Scandalous Women edition, part 2. Now, you do not have to watch part 1 to enjoy this video as they are in no particular order, but if you'd like to watch part 1, I'll have it linked at the end and below. The criteria to get on the list: 1. Have a female protagonist. 2. Who behaves very badly. 3. In a book that I just could not put down. And look, I make no promises that any of these books aged particularly well, but what I will promise is an absolutely delicious read. Well, at least it was for me. I'll let you know if I read them or listened to the audiobook, although I think in part 2 I think that I read all of them, and all of the books will be linked below. If that sounds good to you, let's get to it. First up, we're going to get this thing started with East of Eden by John Steinbeck. The description. Set in a rich farmland of California's Salinas Valley, the sprawling and often brutal novel follows the intertwined destinies of two families, the Trasks and the Hamiltons, whose generations helplessly reenact the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. That's a cute description and all, but let me tell you something. They left out the most important part because East of Eden is nothing without Kathy. So Kathy is Adam Trask's wife. And look, in part 1 of my most scandalous reads, I happened to mention that Winter from Coldest Winter Ever and Amy from Gone Girl are classic narcissists. And Winter maybe even be a psychopath. But let me tell you, East of Eden's Kathy is the coldest of them all. This woman is driven to destroy. And once she's unleashed in this family, she is a true malignancy that you just cannot take your eyes away from. This book was a book that brought back Oprah's book club in 2002 for a reason. I just could not put it down. So welcome Kathy and East of Eden to the list. Next up, one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. The description. In Memoirs of a Geisha, we enter a world where appearances are paramount, where a girl's virginity is auctioned to the highest bidder, where women are trained to beguile the most powerful men, and where love is scorned as illusion. It is a unique and triumphant work of fiction, at once romantic, erotic, suspenseful, and completely unforgettable. All right, this had to make the list, but it almost didn't because Sayuri, who's the main character, really doesn't do anything wrong. I mean, she is just trying to do her best to figure out this world that she's been pushed into, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that world in a second. But lucky for us, we get Hatsumomo. Now, Hatsumomo and Suri are both Sayuri, and let me just say, I don't know, it's been a while since I read this or saw the movie, so I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing these names, but I believe it's Sayuri and Hatsumomo. Sayuri is sold into the life of a geisha as a small child, and the house that she starts out at, Hatsumomo, is also a very small child. And Hatsumomo is basically evil. She's basically evil because she wants to be the most revered geisha. She wants to be the favored child of the house. And now you have Sayuri here, who's incredibly beautiful and incredibly talented. But the thing is, both of these kids are just trying to deal with the incredible evil going on around them. And the book is about Sayuri's life and how she becomes the most revered geisha. I'm sorry also if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And Hatsumomo growing along beside her as an incredible, beautiful, very talented geisha herself. but she's up to stuff. I mean, she's up to stuff. She's cruel, she's bullying, she's jealous, she's a narcissist. But really, both of them are just doing their best to survive and even possibly thrive in this horrible situation that has been thrust upon both of them. It's beautiful. It's amazing. At its core, this is a sweeping, epic tale. And at the end of the day, it's a romance. I devoured every page of this book. And if you haven't read it, I am telling you, pick it up for your next vacation. You will not regret it. So, welcome to the list, Sayuri and Hatsumomo and Memoirs of a Geisha. Next up, Flyy Girl by Omar Tyree. The description. The best-selling urban classic novel about a young woman coming of age in the late 1980s. Tracy Ellison, a young knockout with tall hair and attitude, is living life as fast as she can. Motivated by the material world, she and her friends love and leave the young man who will do anything to get next to them. It's only when the world of gratuitous sex threatens heartbreak that Tracy begins to examine her life, her goals, and her sexuality. So I remember I had this book in my dorm room when I was at uni, and a girlfriend came over and she saw it and she was like, "Oh my God, you read Flyy Girl? You read Flyy Girl? I read Flyy Girl." And she went on and on and on about how she picked up this book and then it was curtains. Like, she just read until she finished it. She wasn't going to parties, she wasn't going out, she wasn't meeting friends, none of it. And I concur. Once I started this book, I was glued to it. I was not trying to put it down. I don't care what was going on, I was trying to finish this book. Now, Tracy is not a psychopath or a sociopath or a narcissist. She's just a young, beautiful girl who knows it. She knows what she has going on. She knows the power that she has. And you know, she's at that age where she's coming into her power. She's like coming into the currency of being a beautiful young woman. And from there, she makes all of the wrong decisions. All of them. All of them. This is the kind of book that makes you have to read all of the author's books. And for a long time I did. Now, Flyy Girl and Tracy has 2 sequels, and I read both of them, but I must say, Flyy Girl is the best. If you have or know a girl in their late teens, early 20s who's addicted to the late 80s, get them this book. Get them this book. I would say get all 3, but get them this book. You will not regret it, and they will not regret it. And as a matter of fact, The Coldest Winter Ever and this book, that would be a great gift. That would be a great gift for a young girl who loves this time period. Actually, I don't remember The Coldest Winter Ever is set in this time period. Or more maybe it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They have similar themes. They have like a similar flow going on. They're both considered urban classics. Get it. Get them both. Get them both. And then in the comments, let me know. So welcome. Who are we at now? Tracy. So welcome Tracy and Flyy Girl to the list. Next up, Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews. The description. At the top of the stairs, there are 4 secrets hidden: blonde, innocent, and fighting for their lives. They were a perfect and beautiful family until a heartbreaking tragedy shattered their happiness. Now, for the sake of an inheritance that will ensure their future, the children must be hidden away out of sight, as if they never existed. They are kept in the attic of their grandmother's labyrinth mansion, isolated and alone. As the visits from their seemingly unconcerned mother slowly dwindle, the 4 children grow ever closer and depend upon one another to survive both this cramped world and their cruel grandmother. A suspenseful and thrilling tale of family, greed, murder, and forbidden love. Flowers in the Attic is the unputdownable first novel of the epic Dollanganger family saga. So when I decided to do this list, I decided not to include any books that I read under the age of 18. And almost all of the books almost all of the books on the list I read in my, 20s and up. But this one I did read as like I don't know, middle school, maybe even late elementary school. But it doesn't matter because it is a classic. It is a classic. This book rocked my little world, and I immediately became addicted to V.C. Andrews and the Dollanganger family. I read all of the Dollanganger books and all of V.C. Andrews' books. So this is basically about Corinne Foxworth, and she and her family. She has 2 boys and 2 girls. They suffer a tragedy because their father dies in a car accident. So Corinne has no money and no skills. She even says it in the book. She says something like, look, I never learned how to do anything. I'm beautiful. I've been a beautiful woman who learned nothing. And so we gotta go home and I gotta fix things with my parents. So her parents are wealthy, and she got kicked out of the family because she married her husband. And I mean, there may be some of you who don't know the Flowers in the Attic story, so I'll try my best not to do any of the spoilers for you. But needless to say, the parents did not agree with this union. So she has to go, and the parents don't know that she has children. So she tells her children, look, we're gonna go back to my parents' house. It's gonna be great. They're incredibly wealthy. The only thing is, you just have to hide out in the attic for a little while because they don't know you're alive. But once I win over my father, then I'll introduce him to you. He'll love you, and we'll be able to all be together as a family, and we'll be very, 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 very wealthy. And that's not what happens. At the end of the day, Corinne figures that she loves money a little bit more than she loves her children. And so these kids are forced to fend for themselves in this attic. It's great. It's great. And Corinne is every bit back to the woman behaving badly. Corinne is every bit of a narcissist. I don't know if I'd say she's a sociopath, but she is every bit of a narcissist. And the grandmother is pretty interesting too. The grandmother's very interesting too. But, this is also a story about a mother and daughter, because Kathy is what? I feel like Kathy's 14 and Chris, which is her oldest son, is 16 when they get trapped in the attic. Locked, not trapped, locked in the attic. So, there's a Lifetime movie, there's a 1980 something movie. And let me tell you, that 80s movie is creepy. The Lifetime movie is fun, it's camp. But the 80s movie, that's the one I recommend. I recommend you go. If you do not want to read this book, they change it up in the movie, but go and watch that movie. It's one of the creepiest movies I have ever seen in my life. And I didn't feel bad including this on the list because after watching it, I went back and I looked at some of the V.C. Andrews books, and I was like, God, I remember really, really liking the prequel to this. And I reread the prequel as a grown woman. This is just like a couple of years ago. I downloaded the Kindle edition of the prequel, just a sample, because I was like, let me remind myself of what that's about. And because that sample captured me immediately, I'm going to include it here as a bonus, which is Garden of Shadows by V.C. Andrews. So Garden of Shadows is about the grandmother. It's about Corinne's mother, Olivia. the description. Olivia dreamed of a sun-filled love, a happy life. Then she entered Foxworth Hall. V.C. Andrews spins a tale of dreadful secrets and dark, forbidden passions of the time before Flowers in the Attic began. Long before terror flowered in the attic, then spinsterish Olivia came to Virginia as Malcolm Foxworth's bride. At last, with her tall, handsome husband, she would find the joy she had waited for, longed for. But in the gloomy mansion filled with hidden rooms and festering desires, a stain of jealous obsession begins to spread, an evil that will threaten her children, two lovely boys and one very special, beautiful girl. For within one innocent child, a shocking secret lives. A secret that will taint the proud Foxworth name and haunt their lives forever. So I read Olivia's story cover to cover. Like once I downloaded that Kindle edition, I just bought it and I just finished reading it. I read it in one day. It is so good. It is so addictive. And Olivia, she didn't start out as a horrible woman, but she becomes what she becomes, man. She becomes what she becomes. And the Lifetime Garden of Shadows miniseries is equally addictive. It is pure camp fun. You know what? It's not camp. Well, by the end of the miniseries, it does get pretty campy, but it's good. It's good. I recommend it. I highly recommend it. So welcome Corinne and Olivia to the list. And finally, City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. In 1940, 19-year-old Vivian Morris has just been kicked out of Vassar College owing to her lackluster freshman year performance. Her affluent parents sent her to Manhattan to live with her Aunt Peg, who owns a flamboyant, crumbling midtown theater called the Lily Playhouse. There, Vivian is introduced to an entire cosmos of unconventional and charismatic characters, from the fun-chasing showgirls to a sexy male actor, a grand dame actress, a lady killer writer, and no-nonsense stage manager. But when Vivian makes a personal mistake that results in professional scandal, it turns her new world upside down in ways that it will take her years to fully understand. Ultimately, though, it leads her to a new understanding of the kind of life she craves and the kind of freedom it takes to pursue it. It will also lead to the love of her life, a love that stands out from all the rest. So, in addition to being one of my most addictive books, Scandalous Women edition, this book is also, I think, it's my top book of the decade, It's my top book of the decade, 2010 to 2020. It's excellent. It's also my most gifted book ever. I always am giving this book out for gifts. It is excellent. It is amazing. It is so unputdownable. And the thing is, Vivian is not a narcissist. She's not a psychopath. She's none of those things. She does behave very badly, and she has a lot of fun, you know? And she has a lot of fun. And the way that she finds herself as a young woman in the city is just fun. It's raunchy, man. It's raunchy. I liked it. And the book is so engrossing and so well written that there was times when I was reading it that I felt like a physical sensation. The writing is that visceral. Like I felt the excitement that the words were like producing. I would say in part two, if I did have to list these, oh man, I can't say it's number one. I would say that this will be the one out of all of them that I was like, you have to read. This will be my high recommend. I can't say it's my favorite, but it is my highest recommend. And it is definitely my top 3 books of all time. I'm saying that now. I'm feeling that now. I might change my mind later, but I'm feeling that now. And it will probably always be within my top 10 books. So thank you, Elizabeth Gilbert, because this book is a national treasure. And welcome Vivian and City of Girls to the list. So that's it for my fave books of all time, Scandalous Women edition. All books are linked in the description, and if you haven't, be sure to check out my Most Addictive Reads, Scandalous Women edition, Part 1. And Part 1 features an author who didn't start writing until she was 44 years old after she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went on to write the best-selling novel of all time with 30 million copies sold. And that book is absolutely addictive, scandalous, and amazing. All books are linked in the description. Thanks for watching, and until next time, wishing you well.